Is South Carolina about to pull in Arizona? We took a road trip to Capitol Hill in South Carolina. Senator Lindsey Graham went on the record about illegal immigration and so much more. Big topic that the country's talking about, and your state of South Carolina is talking about as well, is illegal immigration. Right. And there is even discussion in your state government to pass a similar law to Arizona. What do you think about it?
Well, I think the best way to solve immigration is for the federal government to secure our borders and have national immigration policy. I understand why the people of Arizona felt like they needed to do what they did. They're being overrun. They're right on the border. This whole movement spreading to places like South Carolina. There's legislation in the State House, and my hope is to sit down with some Democrats and Republicans, and if not this year, next year, come up with a comprehensive immigration plan that would make people feel like they're secure and immigration is no longer broken.
Well, what's wrong with now? And I understand that you've tried to do something before, but since at least the mid-1980s, we've heard about this business about securing the border that is really not particularly believable from a voter standpoint. It's just not happening.
Here's the problem. I tried in 2006, 2007, we failed. The key to border immigration reform is confidence. Why would you give these 12 million a second chance if we're going to have 20 million more in the future? People ask me all the time, if we give them a second chance, which I'm not opposed to in principle, convince me we won't have 20 million more. And that is the key. We got to secure our border better than we're doing now. 40% of the people here illegally never came across the border. They overstayed their visa. If you could show people a commitment to border security as if we were at war, a commitment to policing our visa program, all 19 hijackers overstayed their student visas, then you move on to the other parts, a temporary worker program, employer verification, and dealing humanely and firmly with the 12 million.
But I got that. But here's the problem: it's that border security thing that's just not happening. You come into JFK, I hear your voting signal, but you come into JFK and you go through long lines to go through immigration custom. But we have this very unsecure. You can walk across the border in Arizona. So why aren't our politicians actually securing the border, just telling us that, yay, that's a good idea?
Well, 2 years ago we passed a border security fence that was my amendment that required fencing to be done throughout the border. The Obama administration has cut the number of Border Patrol agents. They're not building the fence like Congress directed, and there are 300 million people cross the U.S.-Mexican border legally.
Well, why aren't they doing that? Because the Obama administration says, you know, we're the most secure, we're putting all these resources, and I don't know who to believe. All I know is that the borders aren't secure.
Just believe what they're doing and ask yourself, is enough? Is 1,200 National Guard troops enough? And did he really want to do it, or did we make him do it? Do you need 6,000? The answer is yes. The virtual fence is not working. You should have an urgency to fix that fence. If he would show as much urgency now about securing the border, it would help me and other people be able to work with him to solve the other parts of the problem. But this lackadaisical attitude about border security makes it impossible to do a comprehensive bill. And the president needs to show leadership on border security. He should go to the border like he's going down to Louisiana. He should spend a night in Arizona or Texas, understand why people feel so frustrated, take a tour of the southern border, and come back to Congress with an agenda to fix it, and he'd get 80 votes, 90 votes for strong border security in 2010. In 2011, we'll deal with the other parts of the problem.
All right. Your home state of South Carolina, exciting news in your state in terms of politics. You're going to have a new governor. That's inevitable. Maybe even a woman governor. We don't know that. And even Senator DeMint, your colleague, seems to have some sort of intrigue. His Democratic opponent has a few problems.
Well, we are an interesting place. Smiling faces, beautiful places. There's our motto, and sometimes bizarre politics. The Democratic nominee for Senate last night is a young man who has never run for office, unemployed, who didn't spend one penny, and he got 59% of the vote, and he's facing felony charges.
That's an interesting candidate.
Well, that is an uphill climb. And
for him, not for Senator DeMint, I take it.
Senator Jim DeMint's going to win no matter who they put up, but really, in a way, this is not good for democracy. Democracy depends on competition. Good, honest, hard competition. Competition based on ideas. And it's not good for my state or any other state to have such a lackadaisical attitude about the United States Senate. So the person that he beat was a former judge, was a state house member, a retired member of the National Guard, but the guy that won didn't spend one penny, has never campaigned at all and he won going away. And that's not good for democracy. Senator DeMint is going to win re-election.
All right, June 22nd is a runoff for who's going to be the Republican nominee for governor. Do you think that the opponent to your front runner should withdraw, or should they duke it out on the 22nd?
Well, I think there are 2 weeks, and Gresham Barrett feels like he's got a message to deliver. Go ahead and deliver it. Nikki Haley has run an incredible campaign. She's articulate. She has a vision for the state. She is caught on fire. And the good news is 2 weeks from yesterday, last Tuesday, we're going to have a Republican nominee, and I think a good shot to elect a Republican governor. But I would say this to the Republicans in South Carolina: you just can't win by showing up. Democrats won the Senate seat in North Carolina. They had a runoff in the Senate seat in Georgia in the last election cycle. So we can't just expect to put an R by our name and win. So when the primary is over, hope everybody will come together and we'll put our best candidate on the field and work hard, because the public's going to make us earn any job in South Carolina.
Before we started talking, you said what keeps you up at night is Iran. The president today announced that the UN Security Council had that we've gone up to our 4th level of sanctions against the country of Iran. Your good friend Senator John McCain is most unimpressed with what the Obama administration has secured in the Security Council. Your position?
My position is sanctions should be tried in a way to change behavior, and the sanctions that are on the table now are not going to be behavior altering. They're not tough enough.
Are they effective at all, or are they ineffective?
Iran depends on importing their gasoline. If you wanted to hit this regime and hit it hard, you would cut off all petroleum supplies until they abandoned their nuclear program. The people would suffer, but they would be the biggest winners overall. The people in Iran are a good ally for us. The regime in Iran is a nightmare for our nation and the world at large. This regime would come tumbling down if there were economic sanctions placed on the regime that cut off their economy and ability to grow. They need refined petroleum. They've got a lot of oil, but they can't make their own gasoline. If Russia and China tomorrow married up with the United States and the European nations through the United Nations and imposed petroleum sanctions on Iran, they would change their behavior, in my view.
All right, one other quick question: 1 to 10, 10 being great, 1 being lousy. How do you rate the sanctions in terms of its effectiveness in achieving what we want from Iran?
Well, since there are none in place, 0, but the ones being proposed, 2 or 3. And you asked me a good question. What keeps you up at night? We talk a lot about immigration, $13 trillion national debt, a health care bill that's overreaching. God knows we've got a lot of domestic problems, but the one thing that keeps me up at night more than all others is how the world would look if this regime in Iran had a nuclear weapon. What would they do with it? Would they give it to a terrorist organization? Would they attack Israel? No one knows. It changes the world as we know it. It puts it in a state of chaos and flux. The Mideast could become a nuclear weapons zone where every country feels like they need a nuclear weapon. So the Obama administration has one last chance through sanctions to change the behavior of the Iranian regime. If that doesn't work, we need to look at military option as the last option, but a viable option. If this regime develops a nuclear weapon, you'll never contain them.
Senator, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next,